why did the LLC deputy director say this very weird thing?
Every Lakota and Dakota person has every right to create things in their language and express their intellectual property, with or without Ray Taken Alive's permission, with or without tribal government's permission.
With or without tribal government's permission. This is why he said that. The Lakota Language Consortium says they were established as an educational nonprofit. Keep that in mind. Their mission statement, they're going to develop and produce textbooks for schools serving Lakota children. Their mission statement, they say they provide critical infrastructure to support Lakota language by developing reference tools, produce pedagogical materials for schools and language learners, training language teachers. And their last ones that kind of changed to preserve, revitalize, and help pass on the Lakota language for future generations. So let's talk about why the deputy director wants to completely bypass tribal sovereignty. When you're an educational institution or researcher or whatever, you have to abide by our tribe's research code, which says any person or entity intending to conduct research on the residents, members, and or resources of the reservation shall first complete an application with the City Bowl College Institutional Review Board. This is to ensure that the subjects of any research are properly protected, and there shouldn't be any data collection by a researcher until IRB approval is obtained. Did the LLC do this? They said they're educational. Now here's our Cultural Resource Code, Ordinance number 189. The most important thing in this document is how we define a cultural resource. Pause to read, but down here it says, and may include intangible resources that represent the Lakota Dakota language, oral history, and oral knowledge, as well as Lakota Dakota place names of landscapes, drainages, and waterways. So the selling, purchasing, exchanging, transporting, and receiving of archaeological and cultural resources is prohibited. And just remember how we define cultural resources includes intangible resources. No individual, tribal member, tribal department, anyway, shall disclose the locations of cultural resources, waterways, drainages, place names. The marketing or sale of sacred ceremonial items associated with the traditional Lakota Dakota culture for financial gain is prohibited. We also have an ownership clause over our cultural resources. All cultural resources found on tribal lands are the property of the tribe. All cultural resources found on tribal lands are the property of the tribe. Any data generated within the exterior boundaries of the SRST remains the property of the tribe and must be turned over to the THPO. Hang for part 2. I'm going to show you where the LLC breaks our cultural resource code. So just keep in mind, this dictionary is being sold and has been sold for a long time. So this comes from our pipe filling song. These are prayer songs. And this is a Sundance song. These are prayers. And just remember how we define cultural resource. May include intangible resources that represent the Lakota Dakota language, oral history, and oral knowledge. So they're selling the knowledge around our plants, medicines, flowers. Tribes started to protect these under trade secrets. What happened to the Maori is they have this Monica honey, and a scientist went in and isolated a formula out of that, and then a whole economy grew up around that. One of their medicines was exploited. And Wilhelm Maya said they have over 600 plant names and common food preparations. Again, in how we define a cultural resource, we say, as well as Lakota Dakota place names of landscapes, drainages, and waterways. They're selling those too, the place names, within the exterior boundaries of the SRST. Again, in cultural resource, we say our oral history and oral knowledge. They're selling the oral history and oral knowledge of the Taken Alive family, my family. These sentences come from Unchi's recording. And Crazy Buffalo Ulrich just made a huge post about this. If people find the dictionary helpful, they have the option to support further work on the documentation of Lakota words by purchasing the print version. So just remember, it's against our tribal laws to sell, purchase, exchange, transport, and receive cultural resources. And also, the marketing or sale of sacred ceremonial items associated with the traditional Lakota Dakota culture for financial gain is prohibited. So when they market this goes against our tribal law. I don't know why they needed to be on Good Day Sacramento. I don't know how that helps us in Lakota country. So here's the offenses. So the first offense, they're actually on their third offense. Seizure of equipment, and individuals could be charged up to $100,000 in tribal court or $5 million. Second offense, $5 million for the individual and $50 million for the selling, purchasing, transporting, and receiving of our cultural resources. This is enforced by THPO, Tribal Police, BIA Law Enforcement, Tribal Game and Fish, DER, EPA, Land Management Department, the Tribal Attorney, the Tribal Prosecutor, and the U.S. Attorney and other law enforcement agencies. And just remember, if you've watched this video, no individual, no tribal department, agency, or entity shall knowingly disobey, disregard, or not comply with this video. But now you know. And if you're still continuing, you open yourself up to all of this. I'll bet to watch Hapo.